Good day, everyone. I'm going to show you VHS Pro structure and usage in Unreal Engine 5. I'm going to go through file structure and then presets, which are made to showcase the effect. And then I go through every single feature to show which features different passes have. Let's start with plugin structure. The first version of the plugin was made for Unreal Engine 5.2.1. I had to go back in the past, in the times when dinosaurs were walking on Earth, just to have a bit more compatibility for older projects. Newer versions of the plugin, they have a little bit more features. This is like the very basic version of the plugin. As you can see, this is the file structure and folder structure of the plugin. We can go through it. Blueprints, this is just some stuff for the level, not very important. Maps, this is the actual map, which showcases the plugin. Then we have materials. Materials have 4 main passes. As you can see, this effect has 4 main full screen post-processing passes, which are bleed, fisheye, noise, and signal. Then we have folders like backrooms and color tests. These are just some materials for the test level. Niagara also, this is not very important. Presets is important folder. Presets, we have different material instances, presets, which I use for different setups of the plugin. Let's say if we go through them, you can see there are like different presets inside this volumes, and each volume has multiple passes, and all of them are here in this folder. Then we have meshes. This is also not very important. They just used to build this level. Textures, this is again just textures to build this level. Bleed curves, I will explain later. This is again just some slope textures for building this level. Dirt masks, you can use these masks for your camera. I pre-made some, so if you want to have some dirty camera, you can use these. LUTs are very important. These are some presets I pre-made for changing colors to more retro colors. And that's pretty much it about the folder and file structure. Let's go through presets. As you can see, the first preset is so-called clean preset, is very basic VHS look. It only has bleeding pass and a little bit of interlacing. So if you can see, the picture would shake a little bit because the odd and even lines, they would move a little bit slightly. The next one, as you can see, simple effect. This is just a little bit more sophisticated effect. There's like a little bit more going on here, pixelation, and maybe some color adjustments. Next one, third, noisy. This one shows different noises. As you can see, there are like multiple layers of the noise here, which is typical for simulating tape, and signal noise. There's like some distortion and floaty lines. It has multiple different layers. I will go through them later. Next one is retro GPU. This one's really cool. Is actually, it emulates old graphic cards like from 90s and 80s, and it includes many different steps. It includes dithering, for example. It includes LUTs. All the colors are mapped to the special color palette. It also includes color reduction of the original signal. And here you can see the color chart, the color graph. You can see how the colors are reduced. You can see the dithering in between, the gradients. This is the technique people used in the past when they had limited color palette to kind of simulate more colors. Next one is fisheye. It's just a fisheye effect. I have multiple different implementation of it. This is just my favorite. Next one is floaty lines. This is more like a low res kind of effect for like maybe robot vision. And as you can see, all these lines defloating up, which is like also a nice effect. And the last one is more experimental, trippy acid shader, which includes multiple things. This is the most complex of them all. It has color change, it has fisheye, and has multiple layers. To see what kind of passes are used for these different effects, you can do it very easily. Click on this volume, then scroll down to rendering features here, and then post-processing materials, and then you can see this, for example, retro GPU. It uses 2 materials for passes. So it uses signal pass and a bleed pass. And for example, this one, it has signal pass, bleed pass, and fisheye pass. Let me now go and show you how you set up a new post-processing effects similar to these. So we go to here, add, then we go volumes, and we go post-process volume. So as you can see, I created post-process volume. I will put it here. Let's call it PPV test. Then let's say we want to create a new effect. There are 4 passes which build any effects in VHS Pro. So we can go to materials, and they go in this sequence. So first is a noise pass, then it goes signal pass, then bleed, and then fisheye. You can read it in a README file about the sequence. But yeah, let's try to create something new and go through all the features of this effect. So let's start with noise pass. Okay. To create a material instance, you click on this one. You can click on the pass and go to create material instance. So we go and call it, let's say, material instance, VHS Pro noise, and then let's call it test. This is our material instance. Then we go to this post-processing volume, into rendering features, and add this material instance. So we go here, add reference, and we can pick up our material instance we just created. So if we go now and open this one, I will just put it here. These are the different parameters you can tweak. Let's start with this use pixelization. So basically the first block is a noise resolution. Every noise which we're gonna apply in this noise pass, it will inherit this resolution. Okay, let's start with this part, tape noise. Let's put it on. As you can see, now we have tape noise. This is typical noise which simulates when a recording is playing from a VHS tape. Then we can go to the first block, which is noise resolution. If you can turn it on, you can see this is the resolution of the noise, and all the noises in this pass will be affected by this first block. This sets the resolution of the noise. We can, for example, go and make a bit higher resolution like this, and yeah, basically everything else will be affected by it. Tape noise, let me go through the parameters. This is just on and off of tape noise. Then we have speed. This is self-explanatory. We can have faster or slower noise. If you want the pattern changing faster or slower, you can just here. Scale, this is vertical scale of the noise. This is would define like how condensed the noise will be, also affecting speed. This one I wouldn't touch too much, to be honest. If only your noise is like a bit jumpy or behaves weird, you can adjust. This one, threshold, is basically how much of the noise would be present in the effect. As you can see, the value here is very small, and if you go up, we have a lot of noise. So it's better to keep it small like this, but you can add more noise. Top and bottom parts of the noise, on top of the screen and on the bottom of the screen, you can add a little bit more or less of the noise. As you can see, if I add on top, you can see a little bit noise here. If I add on the bottom, you can see like now top and bottom, there's like a more noise added to the picture. Then we have top bottom amount. We can reduce amount of top bottom noise. We can maybe, yeah, make it just more visible for this showcase. As you can see, this is the bottom noise, this is top noise. But it's better if you keep it like very supple. This one, and then you can go middle noise amount. This is what we see in the middle of the screen. You can make it even smaller or bigger like this if you want it more noisy. And then amount of total, also you can change overall amount. This is the tape noise. The next one is called noise trails. This is more sophisticated noise, which has trails going from each dot of noise appearing. This is more something you would maybe see when you see VHS, old VHS tape, you see this type of noise. So if the first one, the tape noise would be just a little dot, then this one would be blurred or smudged or has little tails. And you can adjust the amount of how much of this noise you can have. This one is more look like maybe what you would have on an old video tape you found in your grandpa closet. And threshold steps is important part. It's how long the tail of each dot is, and it's important because if you put higher value, the effect will be slower, and if you put lower value, let's say 2 or 5, it will be more cheap, more performant. Amount, obviously just blending in and out, like you can also adjust. Then we have this distortion UV. Basically what it does is a whole block of that the noise, when we see the noise, it also would distort the image. We can try to do it more. If you can see, if I put it even more, the bigger value, then sometimes you can see that the image would be distorted. There would be some lines would just move the image. Yeah, this you can see like very clearly. It's good to keep this value small, so maybe for showcasing this effect it's fine to show like let's try different threshold. Yeah, like this you can see there's like a lot of distortion going on. And if I remove trails, you can see this just all goes wild. So if we go like more sophisticated way of doing this, there is just sometimes you can have a little bit of distortion. And the color, distortion color is, so when we have a distortion of particular part of the screen, it also would lose the color. The color would be distorted. This is extra layer of signal degradation, I would say signal distortion, and it's aligned with other effects. It's aligned with tape noise trails and tape noise in general. So if you use them all together, this is what you would have on the old tape. These things. Next one, let me turn these off. Next one is the line noise. Line noise is a simpler effect. If you don't want to go crazy with this like classic tape noise effect, you can go like something simpler. So line noise is only pops up like sometimes. It's very subtle effect, so it's only like shows up like very rarely and in very few parts of the screen. So it's less intense as the tape noise. And depending on your creative direction, you can use a little bit of the effect or very like wild and intense effect. The next one is film grain. This is the classic film grain. I put it inside VHS Pro effect, so you can have it in one pass. You can have it more intense or like change the density so it's not that dense, and opacity. So it's like classic static noise or film grain effect. And next one is signal noise. Signal noise is a special effect for analog signal. So it only applies this noise similar to film grain, but into the signal color channels. So it looks like if you would have some bad cable connecting your TV and VHS player, that's what you would have, this like weird static noise. And this is also, you can change the contrast, change like opacity, and obviously you can combine all these things together. You can have this and that, and you can have tape noise, and it can have multiple effects at the same time. This was the noise pass. Let me go to the next pass, which is signal pass. Let me create material instance. Let's call it MI test. Then we go here again, PPV test, and then let's add second pass. Let's call it, let's find this pass, signal pass. This is the second pass. And then we can open this one, signal pass, and let's put it aside here. So we can go through all the features here. The first block is pixelization. It's a standard effect for pixelating the screen and making it more quantized. And you can obviously select here the resolution for X and Y axis. We can go a bit higher, because in the past the monitors, they didn't have crazy 8K resolution. It was like a very simple resolution. So that block emulated this old screen look. Then we can go to next block, which is called twitch. This is how we twitch our image horizontally like this, or vertically, horizontally or vertically, you can see. And you can change the parameters of how often this is happening. This is specific also, like signal glitch. I wouldn't use it too much if you have effects all the time on your screen inside the game, but for the menu or something like this, it's fine to use. The next one is stretch lines. So stretch lines is, you can see this tiny stretch lines go up and down the screen. You can change the amount of them, let's say 2. Then the width of the line you can change, as you can see, and the speed, how fast they go. More lines mean more performance, so don't go too high with this. I think 3 is enough for me, but you can change for more. Next one is lines float. Lines float is when all the lines go like floating up. You can see it if you go with very low resolution. Let's say we go very low resolution, then you can see that the whole screen kind of floats certain direction. You can also use negative values, so it would go upwards. And you also can use different direction. Let's say this one, we can put horizontal direction. Next block is line gaps. So it's kind of part of the same effect. You can actually make gaps like this, black bars in between those floaty lines. And you can also pick the color for these gaps. Go like this. It's very simple. This is a very particular effect. I kind of like it. It works for certain aesthetics. If you need some computer vision, robot vision, maybe some special security camera, you can use this one. The next one is jitter, is shaking lines. Like, so basically every even and odd line would shake, would move around a little bit. There are different modes. Interlacing, more noise based, and with the color shift. If we see, the bigger amount would be like this, so you can see a little bit of color shift here. This one wouldn't have color shift. This one is classic interlacing mode. You don't go that crazy, so you just use it a little bit. If you make it subtle enough, you can see it just like on the background, you have a feeling that the whole picture is shaking a little bit. That was the case with actual analog signal, where signal was decoded. First there would be odd lines and then even lines to keep image stable, and now it's kind of became an artifact. If you want to see all the modes, you can go to readme file, which is inside content and VHS Pro. So if you can see here, jitter, and then you can see all these jitter modes explained: interlacing, noise single, noise RGB. And this goes for every single mode. There's like documentation here you can read. Let's move on. The next part is signal tweak. This allows you to adjust the signal. As you can see, this is, in case of VHS, the signal is split into different channels, not RGB, but like YIQ. It actually depends on which system you used, and there were like PAL and NTSC and SECAM. There were different color encoding systems, and this is one of them. So first channel Y would hold brightness information. The next one would go with blue and orange. The next one would go purple and green. You can tweak this and have some funny effects. You can also change the range of each channel. So let's say if you have a brightness channel, but like you want to shrink the range, for example, you can make the amount of white you only can store to a certain value, and like the ceiling and the floor of Y you can shrink, so you would have very limited information of the Y channel. So you see, it's like we have limited amount now of information. The same goes with the other channels. You can shrink the amount of other color channels, so this would allow you to see even more limited colors, which would bring some interesting coloring and aesthetics to the picture. You can play around with this one. I deliberately kept this block because it's quite fun to adjust these values and see like different color outcome, maybe just to have some special color vision or limited color range. Next feature is color encoding and dithering. So this block would allow us to reduce amount of colors, the information of each color per channel. Let's turn off this. Let's turn on this. You can see it already has kind of like a bit of a color reduction, like in all games. Let's go through it. So basically, this is on-off switch. Then we have this parameter. You can switch between YIQ mode and RGB. It means you either reduce amount of bits per channel, either for RGB channels or YIQ channels. Let me show how it works. So right now we have 4 bits per channel. We can reduce it. For example, we can say first channel goes only 2 bits, and you can see it's already like have reduced color palette. We can say 1, it's even less. And or like this channel would go less. You can see there's already less color information. You can also use bits all, and this is like a cap on top of everything. So if we reduce amount of color information of all channels, you can go it like this. I also made it that you can have not only integer values but everything in between, so you have this really cool effect, and it could be more precise and more interesting effect like this. You can tweak one of 3 channels and all of them together in this one. Dither mode, this part is for dithering amount and dithering mode. There are multiple dithering modes. If you can see here, there is no dithering. For example, number 1 is dithering used in Game Boy. If we go here and say amount 1, you can see this tiny pattern where the light normally go through a gradient. It would just introduce this dithering pattern. That's how people were blending colors with a limited color palette. We have multiple dithering patterns. As you can see, we have dithering pattern using Game Boy and PlayStation 1, IGN, horizontal vertical lines. So for example, this one, number 2, would be something which was used in PlayStation 1. And then we go 3, 4, this one is horizontal line. So you see the dithering only happens like horizontal lines, and this one is vertical lines. Yeah, and obviously this whole block works together. You can adjust amount of color data and dithering will still work. You can also go to the previous block of color tweak, and then you can tweak the colors. It also works together. You can adjust amount of color range, and then that's how you can get some interesting effects here by tweaking all these different sliders. So you can come up with a very colorful creative effects using all these. As you can see, can go with a very low information per channel, so it will be like really interesting. So I left a lot of parameters for your creative control. Let's go and see next one. The next one is very important. It's color palette. So let's say you want to use a color palette for a particular game, or you have a limited color palette in your game. So this block is exactly for this. As you can see, colors now change to a very particular palette, and this particular one is taken from Quake. I already pre-made quite a lot of them. If you type LUT lookup table, for example, NES, the colors from Nintendo, or for example, let's see this one. Let's reduce a bit amount of colors and put this one. So these 2 blocks, they work together, as you can see. So you can kind of come up with certain look, like a Game Boy look. by just manipulating colors. That's how it actually was working in the Game Boy, because they had limited amount of memory. So let's focus on this part, palette. So I prepared, as I mentioned already, a few color palettes. This one is Doom. This one is some old MS-DOS, like Microsoft DOS kind of games. If you go here to textures, LUTs, you can see all these colors here. There's a big list of them. And here you can see also where they came from. Old Apple computer, Atari, IBM computer, and MS-DOS, Nintendo Game Boy, NES, Doom, Quake, Duke Nukem. What if you want your own palette? If you want your own palette, I made a special tool for it. This special tool you can download separate, and it's called LUT Baker. I have a part of it in the end of the README file. But let me show you how it works. So once you download the LUT Baker from the store, you right click on it and press Run Editor Utility Widget. Here you can select your palette. Let's say this Duke Nukem palette I used originally. Then you press Generate 3D LUT, and then you select a place where you want to store it. For example, here. You call it, like, let's say, LUT test, save. That's all. And then if you go here, you can find this new LUT baked. And actually, the original palette, if you can see here, this was the original palette. It can have all the colors stored in a square. It doesn't have to be in one row. So you prepare your palette and place all your colors here. You have to set up this original palette texture in a particular way. You can go to this description and it's written compression settings, sRGB unchecked, etc., etc. Like, please read this manual if you want to create your own LUTs. This is the way to do it, and I made a special tool for it. But feel free also to use existing LUTs. So that was it about signal pass. Let's go to the next pass, signal bleed pass. Go to materials, we go to bleed. Let's create a material instance, test. Let's go to our post-processing volume, set up third pass here, and then let's go to bleed pass. So let's open this one, stretch it here. Let's go through it. Bleed pass. So this is the most important maybe pass for recognizable VHS look or analog video look. This emulates a special signal bleeding. It originally came from the way some of the hardware works to convert the signal, but it kind of turned into artifact by itself and some kind of visual effect by itself, which now people recreate. I can show you how it works. If you turn on use bleed, it just does the bleeding, this effect. Maybe just to show you more obvious how it looks like, make it less dithering, reduce the dithering. So this is how the bleed pass works. It basically, if you look at the light here, at the white spot, on each of the border of dark and bright parts, we have extra artifacts. I can show you how it looks like. So if you can see, this is the border between dark and light, and now we have one bright line here and dark line here. This is due to encoding of the signal and de-encoding of the signal on a hardware level originally. But obviously now it's recreated and emulated on a shader. So it applies for the whole image, and it creates this VHS analog feel to it. It's very subtle. You don't really see it that well, but like you just feel it mostly. And here we have different modes. Bleed direction. If you go here, you can see the bleed direction is bidirectional, left or right. By default is bidirectional, so it bleeds both ways, but it also could be done only left, as you can see now on this part. There's only white line, but no black line here, or the other way around. Here is now only black line, but no white line. The best is bidirectional bleeding. This bleed length, this is a fine-tuned parameter. You don't have to tweak it. It's related to the signal bleed texture. It's just fine-tuning stuff, but I still exposed it to it. Maybe you can, if you want, you can play around with it and just have some interesting effect with this if you want. Next is the power of the effect, so you can make effect more strong or less strong. Just also, this is maybe if you want to have more greasy, kind of more contrast effect, you can play around with this. This is bleed stretch. This is stretching the effect, so you can, let's say, put 2, then the whole image is more muddy, as you can see. But it's also giving a particular feel to it. So I deliberately exposed these parameters so you can play around with them. Maybe that's your creative direction. You want to have it even more muddy, and yeah. But if you don't want to play around with this that much and push it to extremes, just keep it like this, basically as defaults. This is the best settings for this type of effect. And you can also check other bleeding curves. As you can see, they look slightly different, but obviously the number 1 is the best one. Again, I just left some options for your creativity. And that's the bleed pass. And the final pass is Fisheye Pass. So let's create material instance for testing. Let's open it also inside our screen and add it to our stack of passes as the 4th one. Here we go and add it our fisheye effect. Fisheye effect. This is self-explanatory. Fisheye is the fisheye as the wide lens effect. So this one is pretty straightforward. It has fisheye mode and fisheye strength. So if you go to the 4th pass, you can see there's like a bunch of different modes. Let's say 0 is realistic FOV. This is like normie kind of basic effect. So you can see it's like make image a bit more stretched. But instead of like just like actually if you put 1, that would be the most default look. But I deliberately put parameters that you can tweak them more, so you can exaggerate stuff, so it maybe would look more dramatic. And I included quite a few different implementations of the fisheye. So let's say we can go to this one, which is quite interesting. You can see it's like quite like trippy pass. Actually, this was quite cool to implement because they distort the image quite a lot, like making everything like really trippy. This wasn't original in the previous version of the plugin, but I kind of really took some time to make this look good. Yeah, you can go through different ones. This one is more like a, you can see like a square has this funny distortion. So, you know, just imagine if you would be like a robot with some kind of weird sensor, weird camera sensor. This camera could distort image quite differently. This one is maybe more like classic wide lens camera. This one is a different wide lens camera. This one's actually real cool. Look, it can go like pretty trippy. This looks like a real lens. Yeah, so basically, yeah, quite a few different implementations. You can pick your favorite. There's, yeah, quite a lot left for your creative choice. And also, I added vignette. Vignette is like very classic type of effect, which makes sides of the image a little bit dark. So as you can see, for example, like this, it would be like if you have like some GoPro camera, maybe you have like dark edges and distorted lens. And then I also added a bunch of different modes. Okay, there are 3 modes: parabolic, oval, and circle. So this one is the most classic one used in a demo scene. And then they have more. This one is always stay circle, and the other one would stretch with the screen. But let's stick with the classic one. Yeah, strength, and then also range. So we can have the dark range more, like dark range wider, or we can have the white range wider, the bright range wider. So you can see you can open up the center of this one and make the center of this effect super clear. Here's the opposite. For example, you can have very small area in the center, but then very dark on the sides. And obviously the color of it you also can change like this. Yeah, that's about it about Vignette and Fisheye. And as you can see, we went through all the features of all 4 passes. So hopefully you have an overview now of what this plugin is capable of doing. And these passes usually go like this: noise, signal, bleed, and then fisheye. You don't have to use all of them. You can use only one of them, or 2 of them, or 3 of them, depending on your needs. And obviously, I prepared these presets. This is very classic, very subtle effects, and etc., etc. So you can start with the presets and then make your own effects. And the last part is the feedback. If you find a bug in the plugin, please feel free to write me on email, but please specify that this plugin is for Unreal, because there is also a similar plugin for Unity. Write the game engine version, plugin version, platform, and add a receipt so I can review your bug and hopefully fix it in the next version. That's all. Thank you for watching. Hope you will enjoy the plugin and have a great day.